Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dean Meadows with the Daily Apologist. This is another episode of Dean's Dialogue. So glad that you're with me today. And so today, I know this is a little bit late on Friday if you're on the East Coast, but today is Free for All Friday. It's something that I've kind of started where I get to comment on, just kind of something that's happening in the culture, something that I saw in a YouTube video, something that someone sent me in an email, or something that I have just run across that has apologetic value that I just want to comment on and hopefully provide something for you guys. And today is a really good one because there's been a lot of activity on my Facebook wall this past week. So, this past week I did a blog on a statement made by Matt Dillahunty in a recent debate that he had, in which he said, science doesn't appeal to faith. Now, that certainly isn't true just because of the nature of science, but oftentimes what's relayed by the skeptical community is that scientists don't appeal to faith either, because most scientists, I think, are probably agnostic or atheist or agnostic atheist. Long story short, though, I wrote a blog about the faith involved in believing in the multiverse. And the next thing I know, I've got PineCreek, who's a YouTube personality, commenting, and some other people commenting. Forced Amatosaurus, who's from the Daily Apologist, commented. And the crazy thing about it wasn't even on the multiverse. It was on the Kalam cosmological argument that I made reference to, sort of in passing. Maybe not. It was a pretty foundational piece to that blog. And basically, what the Kalam cosmological argument states is that whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. The universe has a cause. And so this was the centerpiece of a bunch of comments that I'm grateful for. I'm happy that everybody commented on it. And so there was just a lot of things on that wall that I didn't have a chance to address. So I'm just going to go ahead, and that's going to be our Free for All Friday, is talking about the Kalam cosmological argument. And so PineCreek, that's his YouTube channel handle, posted some quotes about that. And the first thing that he kind of asked me was, can you give me 3 examples of something beginning to exist? And so I responded with my wallet, planets, and desks. And then he asked if those things could come from nothing. Now, here, PineCreek and I are on the same page. I see where he's going. He's saying, hey, this stuff doesn't come from nothing, right? And I agree with him on that things don't come from nothing. They come from something. But then I really think PineCreek's assessment of the Kalam starts to break down, because he says, you see, Dean, premise 1 of the Kalam uses evidence for things that you mentioned. Wallets, planets, desks. They begin to exist from other stuff. So with premise 2, the universe began to exist, one should remain consistent and say that the universe began to exist from other stuff. But proponents of the Kalam say, no, the universe didn't begin to exist from stuff. But now we no longer can tie premise 1 to premise 2. Does that make sense? Now, I understand what PineCreek is saying here. And even to the unsuspecting Christian or somebody that just hasn't studied the Kalam, this seems to make sense. However, as we look back at those premises, whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. The Kalam is neutral in its assessment of the cause of the universe. There's a difference between stating what the cause is and just simply grounding the idea that the universe has a cause, right? Classically speaking, Aristotle identified four types of causes: material, formal, efficient, and final. And the Kalam doesn't commit to or imply to any one of these causes specifically. It only argues that the universe has a cause. And there's nothing in the first two premises of the Kalam that moves it to either side of that metaphysical spectrum, naturalism or theism. It just doesn't. Now, when PineCreek in his statement, when he says that, to be consistent, we should add stuff or pre-existing stuff, he's assuming what he's trying to prove, because the whole nature of the Kalam is to just state that there's a cause. And so by adding stuff, pre-existing stuff, to premise 2, he's inserted and even, I think, revealed his bias towards naturalism. He's trying to smuggle that into the second premise, and that's just not how logic and philosophy are done. And so now if he and I don't know this, now if he means to suggest that he's closed to other possibilities other than that, then I really hope that he would rethink his belief, because I think that that's a devastating mistake to his argument. So later on, Forrest Amatosaurus, a guy who's also here at the Daily Apologist, asked PineCreek, so the universe came into existence by pre-existing stuff. That pre-existing stuff came into existence by pre-existing stuff forever. And PineCreek says, I don't know. It could be the case. We don't know. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing and paring down his statement. And so Forrest then responds with, so an infinite regress of pre-existing stuff is possible. And PineCreek says, I don't know, but it could be. Regressing a certain point on the circumference of a circle can go on infinitely. Now, there's a lot of stuff here to unpack. First, I think Forrest does an excellent job in pressing PineCreek on the pre-existing stuff argument. And it seems like PineCreek, and once again, I'm simply assessing based upon what's been written. I don't know the inflection. I don't know his thought pattern. I don't know the strategy behind his answer. He seems to be hesitant, but he commits to the pre-existing stuff argument because I think he has to, even if he does so subtly with the infinite regress argument that he's running. Because if he doesn't, it pretty much destroys his whole argument. So let's go ahead and look at that pre-existing stuff claim, or at least subtle agreement that is made by PineCreek on the wall. Now, he could be unaware of the difference between a potential and an actual infinite. I don't think that he's unaware, because from the times that I've talked with PineCreek and from the videos that I've watched, he's a very clever guy. He's very smart. I mean, he's even challenged me on multiple occasions with really, really good questions. And he's taught me a lot, not just what to think, but how to think as well. And so all in all, he's made me a better apologist. And that's part of the reason why I watch his stuff, because it helps me out. So I don't think he's unaware of the difference between an actual and potential infinite. But for those of you who are unaware of what that is, an actual infinite number of things cannot exist. An actual infinite is a collection of definite and discrete members whose number is greater than any natural number. And so a potential infinite is a collection that is increasing towards infinity as a limit, but never gets there. So, for example, any finite distance can potentially be divided an infinite number of times, right, into infinite number of parts. You can simply keep dividing half over half, but you'll never reach, the infinitieth division, right? And so the first line of reasoning in the Kalam doesn't assert that potential infinites can exist, but that actual infinite numbers of things cannot exist. David Hilbert, probably the best mathematician of the 20th century, said the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. All in all, if actual infinite numbers of things could exist, we would have some really odd, counterintuitive absurdities. So think about it this way for a second. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that where I am right now, there's an infinite number of chairs in the room. All right, infinite number of chairs. And let's say you came along and you took out 5 trillion chairs. How many chairs would I have? Well, 5 trillion subtract infinity is always going to be infinity. I'm still left with infinity. But wait. What if you added 20 trillion chairs? So 20 trillion plus infinity equals what? Infinity, right? So no matter how many chairs I add or subtract to the room filled with infinite number of chairs, I still get an infinite number of chairs. And that's just preposterous. That just doesn't work. That simply will not happen in the real world that we live in. So potential infinites or infinite by itself is something that we can conceptualize, but it's something that's never actualized in reality. So that's the first piece where I think PineCreek's argument runs into a wall. Is number one, an infinite number of things, actual things, does not exist. But I think the bigger, problem with his with his agreement or his asserting the idea that it's possible that we live in an infinite regress of pre-existing stuff, is this question: is how would we ever arrive at today? I mean, it seems that pre-existing stuff would beget pre-existing stuff, which would beget pre-existing stuff, existing stuff, pre-existing stuff, out to infinity. And so if there's always pre-existing stuff before the universe, then there's no point in which the universe begins to exist, right? Because there's always more pre-existing stuff. Make sense? But the thing about it is, the universe, as far as we know, does have a beginning, did begin to exist, which means that there isn't an infinite regress of pre-existing stuff. Our universe began to exist at a finite point in the past. So now given these objections that PineCreek raises, I think it's absolutely clear, at least from a philosophical sense, that his assessment of the Kalam is off, and I actually think that it goes to show the strength of the Kalam, and even shows the strength that our universe began to exist at some point in the finite past, which also means that there has to be a cause to the existence of the universe. So thank you for tuning in. It's been a great Free for All Friday. Thank you so much for all of you who pray for us, who support us, who follow us in any way, shape, or form with all of those. Greatly appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys. So have a great evening if you're on the East Coast, and remember, equip yourself to engage culture.